Hi, this is Kalia, and today my channel is getting a facelift. Pandora's Box is my radio podcasting channel that has been here since the year 2012. Prior to that, I was Dispelling the Myths, which was a radio show in which I interviewed other people. I moved to YouTube a couple of years ago, never really that comfortable with the whole being in front of the camera, being on YouTube, and I haven't put that much into it. But I realized that I am ready to fully commit to being here on YouTube with all of you and doing this work, sharing the same kinds of topics that I share on Pandora's Box, but YouTube deserves its own branding. So now you will know me as Coaching with Kalia, and I'm going to bring the same wonderful videos that help you to delve into your personal story, to heal your core wounds and reclaim your soul. But I would like to share a little bit of my history with you today as I celebrate the launch of Coaching with Kalia. Back in 1988, I was certified as a clinical hypnotherapist and registered as a counselor with the state of Washington. I was in school to become a licensed psychologist, but was a bit derailed because I came to realize that the whole academic path in traditional education was not for me. I tended to, my soul resonated with alternative paths like clinical hypnotherapy and shamanism. So I began to go in those directions and actually combine shamanism with clinical hypnotherapy. As I moved forward, I was beginning to work more with addictions, eating disorders. I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager that it took quite a lot of work to heal. And this is where I first started on the therapeutic path as a patient, as a client, healing my own eating disorder. And so it was natural when I first opened my practice in the Northwest in 1988 that I was working to help others to heal eating disorders, problems with weight loss, overeating, and addictions like smoking and drug addiction, as well as working in the field of behavior patterning and depression. So that was where I got my start at the age of 26. As I continued on my own life path journey, I realized I had a pattern of getting involved with men that were not healthy for me. I learned about bipolar disorder as I married a man who had bipolar disorder, and I was introduced to narcissistic abuse after coming out of a relationship with a man where I had a complete breakdown and I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't understand the post-traumatic stress disorder and what was going on with me. So I ended up once again in therapy, where I was told that the man that I was with was likely a narcissist. This began me on a journey of trying to understand, which is always my journey, trying to understand the human psyche, the spirituality, everything behind it. So I went on a journey of understanding what narcissistic personality disorder was about and what the abuse was about and what it came from. And as a result of this intensive research that I did on the topic, this was back in the year 2000 through 2006, when there wasn't a lot of information out there. There were a few people that were specializing in it. YouTube was not out yet. All we had was basically the websites and some podcasts and things like that. So I ended up writing my first book in 2006 called Spiritual Recovery from Narcissistic Abuse. And this was the beginning of my journey as a an authority teaching other people about narcissistic abuse. From that first book, I ended up getting a lot of questions from people and asking about questions that were brought as a result of my book, and I was beginning to put some articles up. So getting some attention, people started asking questions, and as a result, I wrote my second book, Narcissism, The Web of Illusion. Now, both of these books were ebooks. As I moved on and got involved in yet another relationship that was a 6-year relationship, and it ended up going really wrong as well. And I crashed after that one. I went immediately into the dark night of the soul. It's what I called my breakdown time. And I had 3 different breakdown times in my life. The first one was with my eating disorder, when I was really at the end of my rope, at the end of my life. I was suicidal. I didn't want to live because I had no control. I didn't know what to do with this disorder. It was taking over my life and it was consuming me. So before I started therapy, I didn't have all the information that I have now. I was flying blind. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't understand family of origin issues to the degree that I do now. And although I did learn a lot in school, as I was working towards being a psychologist and an addiction specialist, I was learning a lot, but still it wasn't giving me the information that I needed. So around the year 2011, I had my third dark night of the soul. As a result of that dark night of the soul, I wrote my third book, Rebirth, Traversing the Dark Night of the Soul. And that was, of course, inspired by my own experience. And I went on to write my fourth book, Healing Narcissistic Abuse and Finding the True Self, which was really meant to be a compilation of my work, my years and years and years of work in the field of narcissistic abuse. By this time, I was ready for a change. I had launched my radio show, Pandora's Box, in 2012, and at this point I began to speak. I began to talk about the experiences that I was having and what I was helping other people through, what I was learning about. It was no longer interviewing other people like I did in a previous show, Dispelling the Myths, where I interviewed and promoted other people. Now it was time for me to have a platform to talk about what I was learning. So Pandora's Box has been here since 2012, and it's still alive and well, and I continue to do podcasts. But I really felt that I needed to start something new with YouTube, not just have Pandora's Box goes to YouTube. Instead, I wanted to have my own brand with YouTube. And so I have decided to relaunch my YouTube channel as Coaching with Kalia, where I'm here to talk about all of these topics that I delve into in Pandora's Box, but on video. The purpose of Coaching with Kalia is to heal core wounds and recover your soul. So you'll hear me saying that is what this channel is about, to help you to heal core wounds and recover your soul. Back when I wrote my last book, Healing Narcissistic Abuse and Finding the True Self, I have to emphasize the true self, because that's really where our focus needs to be. I can tell you one thing, with all the work I've done in narcissistic abuse, it's not about the narcissist. We have to be able to unplug from that other person or from the group of people that you might find yourself in that have resulted in your feeling disempowered, and that has resulted in the triggering of your core wounds and quite possibly post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, it's very likely that post-traumatic stress disorder began way back in early childhood when you were traumatized. We're all wounded in childhood in some way or another, and it's not really about blaming our parents, but it's about understanding that this ancestral wound gets passed down from generation to generation to generation unless somebody stands up in that family system and says, enough, it stops with me. I'm not going to carry this forward. And so there's a lot of us that are doing that right now. We're stepping up to the plate and saying it stops with me, and we're doing our own work. We're coming to understand, where do these wounds come from? What are they doing to my life? How are they showing up in my life? And our core wounds from early childhood end up becoming our core beliefs. They become what we believe about ourselves. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm shameful. I can't do anything right. I'm stupid. I'm unlovable. I'm ugly. Whatever ideas that you've gotten about yourself are core wounds that have encoded as core beliefs. And these beliefs have run your life unconsciously from that deep well of the unconscious. These core wounds have run your life. And that's what caused you to attract that narcissistic person into your life in the first place. Or those series of relationships where you say every man I've dated or every woman I've dated is narcissistic or screwed up in some way. So we have to be willing to have the courage to look at the ways that we ourselves have been wounded and start focusing on the healing and recovery of our wounds, the recovery of our soul, which is our life essence, which is that part of us that knows that we're purposeful, that we have a reason for being here, that we are not just these physical bodies, but we are, spiritual beings having a human experience. So I really speak to that spiritual path that we're on as well. It doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are, because spirituality really has very little to do with religion. It has more to do with the state of the soul, with how in alignment you are with your own soul and your own mission and purpose for being here. So I do talk a lot about that soul growth and that mission and purpose for being here, and helping to give you the tools to recover your soul, to heal those core wounds, to be able to name the lies that you've been living under. Now, narcissism itself is one big lie. It's also an encoding. So those that are narcissists, and those of us that have narcissistic characteristics or borderline characteristics, which doesn't mean, you're a full-fledged narcissist or a full-fledged borderline, but you may be able to identify with some of that, which is why some of you ask, how do I know I'm not the narcissist? How do I know I'm not the borderline? How do I know that I'm not the one that's messed up? Well, the truth is we're all messed up in some way. It's just how courageous are you going to be about, facing, confronting, and healing your own wounds so that you can live in a healthy way. So that narcissism, that borderline personality disorder, all personality disorders are the result of core wounding and core beliefs. They are defense mechanisms that defend against that core pain. May not show up that way. You may not realize how much that narcissist in your life has been suffering, because that suffering is pushed down, that pain is pushed down, so that person may not even be aware of their own suffering. I know that's kind of a strange concept. How can you not be aware of your own suffering? Well, when it starts to come up to the surface, we're going to do a couple different things with that. We're going to either self-reflect or project. We're going to either implode or explode. So it's going to be important to be able to know what's going on inside of ourselves so that we can take responsibility for that, for those wounds, for that pain. what the narcissist does is project out. So he takes, when that pain begins to surface, he takes that pain, or she takes that pain, and projects it out onto the people closest to them, and blame and try to destroy that person out there, because they're trying to destroy what's happening in here. They don't want to look at it. So they do the shame and blame game by projecting outward and accusing you or somebody else or a whole group of people. And that's all from core wounds. So we're all wounded at the core, and we all need to do our work. It doesn't mean everybody's going to. In a largely narcissistic society, a lot of people are not going to self-reflect. They're not going to look at themselves. They're not going to take ownership or responsibility for their pain. They are going to continue to project it out. And that is why you have to learn how to take care of yourself. And when you identify that somebody is putting their stuff on you, projecting their pain on you, you have to learn how to have boundaries and take that step back and even remove those people from your life that are not healthy for you. So that's what this journey is about. And I am happy to be here sharing what I have learned, what I'm discovering, to help you to heal your core wounds, to become the person that you've really come here to be. So I really want to thank you for joining my channel, Coaching with Kalia. If you like what this channel is about, if you find that this channel is helpful and healing for you, I invite you to subscribe. I invite you to click the bell so that you will be notified of my new videos as they come out. And I invite you to share if you know somebody that can be helped by what I'm talking about. Also, if you like it, give it a thumbs up, because this really helps my channel to grow. It lets YouTube know that you find value here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and it is my hope that I can help you to become your absolute best self. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.